Hey, Eric, my name's Chris Johnsen, and I'm a business lawyer and entrepreneur out of Houston, Texas.
Awesome. And where does your story start?
My story starts in my childhood at a pretty young age. I don't remember the specific year, but I do remember where it culminated, and I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Tell me.
All right. So I was always fascinated with investing. And I think at the youngest age, it was growing money with money. It was almost like planting a seed and growing a crop. The fact that you could put money in this thing called the bank and you could get interest off of it, I thought was like the coolest thing ever. So I was like super frugal, and it kind of annoys me now when I see my kids and they want to like spend the money they earn. But I was like the complete opposite, almost like in a weird way, where I would do chores, I would do things however I came about money. And it wasn't like my family gave a lot. I don't think I ever got Christmas money from relatives. I know a lot of kids do now, but I had to like earn a lot of this money. My mom was like, you should put this in a bank account. That's probably the time I learned about interest. And that's like the coolest thing ever. So I didn't spend any of it. And I just kept saving and saving and saving. And then, so I got about $1,000 by the time I was about 12 or 13 years old. And my mom was dating a stockbroker, and he was talking about stocks. And I was like, all right, and this thing, I was kind of like learning about it. That was a new thing to me. And then I was like, well, which one should I buy? And he's like, well, here's a suggestion. I'm like, oh, I'm going to put all 1,000 in it. I would not suggest doing that. There was no like insight into anything like research. I didn't even really understand it, but it was a home builder based in Southeast Florida, where I grew up. I was born in Fort Lauderdale. Well, right about pretty shortly after that, maybe a year or so after, half a year after, Hurricane Andrew came in through South Florida and just decimated the Homestead, Miami area. And this home builder was very well suited to benefit from it. And the stock shot up a ton. And then my mom's boyfriend was like, yeah, you should sell this stock now. And I didn't even mention this part, but I was like so proud of my stock. I would like walk the dog as part of my chores to get money. And I would spend my money on the paper. So for those that, don't remember the paper, like there was no internet at this time to look up stock prices. So like, I would be like buying the paper, looking the stock up to see how it was doing. And I would do that so often. But I did well on that stock. And that like got me addicted. It got me hooked. I, ended up majoring in finance and real estate. Ended up, my first career was in real estate, which real estate is just a type of investment. It can be evaluated just like any investment. And I've just loved it ever since. Even as a lawyer, which by profession I am now, I just love the idea of saving. And by the way, I got to put in a plug. I hope this isn't one of your separate questions, but Rich Dad Poor Dad was just as pivotal, yeah, to me and my mindset with investing and growing wealth over time. So I already had the fascination, it was kind of already there. But one of my finance professors when I was about 18 was like, you should read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That one blew my mind too. And I was like, wow, that kind of really framed expenditures and how I save money and how I prioritize expenditures in my life, what value I put on it.
I started a whole company based off of Rich Dad Poor Dad called cashflowingassets.com.
Okay.
Yeah. So very impactful for me as well. There's a section in there where he talks about like the samples being a cost to the business, right? I think that's Rich Dad Poor Dad. So going back to the stock story, I have to ask, how much did you actually make off that $1,000? Did you just put 1,000 into it? And then how much did it skyrocket? Like, how'd you do as a 12, 13-year-old kid?
It was multiples. It was multiples. So I did well. And that money still continues today, by the way. Just after, I'm no like Peter Thiel or anything, but definitely I've turned that 1,000, and then multiples into that to the when I sold the investment, and then just growing over time. Who knows where it's even gone? I could have used it to help start my scooter business that I started in college, and sold that one to help fund law school. That was a pure expenditure, but it was an investment in myself, and I multiplied that over and over and over again. Everything in life I view as some form of dividend and some form of like the marshmallow test. Am I willing to give up immediate gratification to have better in the future and see the dividends from that? I even view relationships like that. I view a lot of things that way. I have to put in the work. I have to spend time. I have to invest time, and it will pay dividends in the future.
How do you deal with the flops of these investments in your life, the ones that don't work out so well? And was there a first one that catalyzed your approach to when the investment actually doesn't work out, and how you brace your chin and face that storm?
By then, I had learned about diversification, and I had learned about just hedging your bets, right? And I've never been like a day trader, nothing crazy, more of a long-term investor in allocations. But by the point I had some like real stock losses, and what I've told myself too is it's all fake. I mean, my investments have gone through. I had real estate in 2008. Okay, I saw it through that. Just had to put renters in it because I wasn't going to fire sale it and just lose everything on it. But until the gain or loss is realized, when it's unrealized, it's fake. It's just paper. It just is my willingness to see it through. And I guess perhaps, that's why a lot of people need financial advisors, because they get just freaked out. But I don't see it that way. The stock market been through the bubble bust, the tech bubble bust, goes down, but most of it comes back up. There's going to be some real losers. I have not lost overall. I've lost 50 grand here. I've lost 100 grand, whatever. But when I look at overall a portfolio and gains over time, they're just like little blips in the radar. It all comes out in the wash. So I try not to focus on any one thing specifically, and have my eggs in lots of different baskets. I got crypto, I got a nice allocation, but it's not a major chunk of my portfolio. If I lost all my crypto, I would be totally okay.
Now, there's a lot of folks who they're running their business and they are getting their asses whooped.
Mm.
They're trying real hard and they're being smart about it too. They're working with smart people. They've got mentors. They've got a board. They've got ChatGPT at this point. Like helping them make halfway decent decisions.
I've been there.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, that just like the deal doesn't get closed, the vendor gets lost, the tragedy hits. How do you deal with those ups and downs? How do you rise above the stress? What's your method?
Man, I'm going to address that. First of all, let me say that I've been there. And so that triggers some things for me. I've had like one real loss in business, and not sure if it was attributable to the partner, not sure if it was attributable to me not trusting myself over other people and being confident that way, or maybe it was market adoption, something else, who knows. It sucks, it's shitty. And as you might see based on what I said about investing, I'm a really like patient person. I really see it through hard times. I really give up easily. That one, I look back in hindsight, and I should have pulled the plug quicker. And I've read literature post that experience that pretty much says fail fast, and fail fast, essentially what it is. And I've noticed a lot of successful people do that, right? They'll go out, but if it's a failing, then they're cool. They just pull it. And here's what I've also learned about failure. Some of this is perspective. Um, there is not one person out there that succeeds all the time, and failure is part of calibrating success. Actually, one of the examples, and I've read this somewhere. I didn't come up with this. is basketball. And if you look at the losses, they vastly outweigh the successes. But you don't have success until you have some kind of loss. It's all a calibration of figuring out the tweaks that you need for success. So, and another perspective thing, and I'll kind of end with this, and this is the main way that I deal with it. Failure, the first thing I look at, this is any kind of failure, loss, tragedy, anything in life. Harvest the good. So what's the good that I can take from this? Don't think about the bad. What's the good? Harvest the good and forgive the rest. Just let the rest go and move on.
Last year, I had a company that I was working for get shut down by the Federal Trade Commission. And we were humming. It was beautiful. We did like millions in our first 8 months before it all went down. And I'll say I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I felt a lot of things about it. You know what I mean? And a lot of that was very negative. And I've gone through the exercise of trying to say like, okay, what can I take from this? Some advice that I got was like, why did this happen for me? Right. And so I've been through that exercise, and I took some anecdotal learnings from it. There was not a lot tangible or physical that I could necessarily take. It was all, intellectual learnings from it. But how long should I expect to feel so crappy about that experience? Because I have tried to let it go, man. And this is October when it really melted down. And it was 2 months of like repair and triage, because all of a sudden we had a bunch of clients who were like, Eric, what is going on? Like, what happened? And having to explain to them all the intricacies of this federal agency messing with us. And it was a victimless crime. It was really great. We had like hired a contractor who was in trouble with the FTC and were guilty by association.
Oh,
Right? So it was just like a weird situation. So you say, just let it go, take the good and let it go.
That's true.
I'm still grappling with it. There's a time frame that I would love to. I'm trying so hard. I'm like carry it on my back and like trying to throw it off, and then the next day there it is on my shoulder again. I'm like, why can't I get this off me? So what are your thoughts on that?
So saying let it go is kind of, it's easy to convey the message. It's hard to actually do it. And there have been times in my life, and I also will reframe let it go as turn it over to God. I multiple times, as soon as the negativity, as soon as the ickiness comes there, I'm turn it over, think positive, just focus on the positive. All I know is time always heals. The most embarrassing moment of life, the worst client screw up, the worst day that I could possibly have, every time I have looked back on that, I don't feel the same way about it that I did that day. I know with 100% certainty that time always heals. Always feel better at some point. It may not be right now. I also have faith. I know this with 100% certainty that every time there's something that happens, when I look at it with hindsight, I can see that one door shut and others opened. If it was not for that door shutting, then these other opportunities wouldn't unfold. And so all I can say as far as an answer is faith and hope. That's it. Other than that, yeah, it sucks. Sorry, man. I'm not going to try to like tell you not to feel that way, because it does suck. That's terrible. But yeah, it'll be better.
It should be nice to know when, and it almost seems like we rely on the inefficiency of our hippocampus to just like forget about the tragedy of the experience and to be focused and anxiously engaged in the things that are right in front of you, right? To offset that pain and that memory.
Maybe I had a lot of resentment against my former partner, like huge resentment. And I was in this group, and they were talking about psychic scars and how people have like tentacles that they literally can like put in you as energy vampires. And thought about it and I'm like, yeah, I mean, if anything, maybe that's not literal, but this dude has like, you know, energy tentacles in me and I just can't get over it. I cannot get over this resentment. I think about him and I just hate him. And so I did a visualization technique where these like tentacles were literally in my like soul, my core, my energy, whatever you want to call it. And I like removed them. I like literally pulled them out of me so they were not attached to me anymore and just let it go. Just let it go. Just cast it aside. Um, and it helped some immediately, not 100%, but I do view that as the turning point of me letting that experience go. I actually ran into him at FedEx just about a month ago. He was polite. We shook hands, said hi. He's like, it's great seeing you. You look great. I felt absolutely zero animosity towards him. Now, I know that's a different situation, but I do believe when we suffer extreme trauma like that, whatever it is, right? Whether it's the FTC or whether it's someone that maybe molested you when you were a child, there's deep seated trauma. And in any event, there's something holding us down to our core, and it involves some deep letting go. And maybe this experience is your the reason this might be a gift, and I'm just speculating, is maybe this is your opportunity to learn how to forgive deeper than you've ever forgiven your entire life.
I came across the realization the other day that, and I think it was probably just off of like a little Instagram post that said, don't complain about having a full plate if you ask to eat. Like if you wanted all these things, you have to realize that like you've got to get through a bunch of the stuff that come with acquiring those things. And so all that has made me do recently is just want a whole lot less. I've taken the Zen Buddhist route to have more, just be like, I don't want it anymore. I'm good. Self-actualization achieved. Unfortunately, though, that's not how it happens. Even if you don't have, you're still going to get handed those really difficult things and you'll have to.
Heck yeah. Last year was tough for me, man. Like it was rough. Okay. You want me to tell you? Did I even tell you this when we spoke briefly the other day?
No.
Okay. This is gonna get personal. It's fun. So my ex-wife, didn't went into a depression, didn't spend any time with the kids during Christmas. Day after Christmas, tried to kill herself. Okay. Ended up going into rehab. Had to deal with all that. Then decided to leave her. Then decided, start dating someone else. That became a complete shit show with the family and relationships, all that. Then, after, I was like told to leave the house, then a couple months later, I get a call that she's going back into rehab. Then I had to deal with the craziness of the rest. So this was like all of last year. Um, and I talk about harvest the good, forgive the rest. One of the main thoughts I thought is, thank God I'm not at Big Law anymore. If I actually had to drive to downtown, go into the office, work 60 hours a week, I literally had set up my businesses in such a way that I could step back from the businesses. I felt a little guilty, but I was like, you know what? This year, 2024, is my time to shine. It is my time to step up for my family. And that's the chapter of my life that I'm in right now. And as I'm going through this experience and this nasty divorce and all this crazy shit, I almost felt like from a lifetime of mindset work, just forcing myself to change my perspective. I almost felt like I was in an altered state. And I'm not going to say that it wasn't hard, because it was, but I felt like, man, this should be a little harder. Like, I
You were
was
flowing.
I
Yeah.
was still able to hold the positivity and the hope. The worst thing was the patience. Again, like kind of like you said, when's it going to be over? I knew it would be. I just didn't know when. And I just had to go with it. Just be in the present and just be okay with it. But God, I was like, man, I hear all these stories and people are like, this was the worst moment of my life. I'm like, this is probably up there if I factually I had to paint the circumstance, but I'm so different than I was when I was 20 when I lost my dad, which was another one of the worst moments of my life. My ability to handle the situation and to control my thoughts and how I think about things has just drastically improved.
You and I are in a similar mindset, different circumstances. We have a 1-year-old, and my wife is a full-time neuroscience student at UTSA. And so I'm taking care of the baby from the time that he gets up until about noon every day.
Okay.
Thank goodness I'm not working a job.
Right.
Thank goodness I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
And I have this flexibility, even though since my time and energy is divided, I'm not able to crush it as much as I would like to. And I have to be okay with that, right? I have to be limited by a whole half a day. And it's taken a lot of work to feel okay. Yeah.
What a blessing, man.
Well, it's interesting too, because like, I've talked with enough old people, specifically old people, that I've asked like your biggest regrets, tell me, give me the playbook. And they're like, just spend way more time with your kids. And so
was anything on the list? Like, I wish I had more hours at work.
Never. Yeah. Yeah. I wish I would have started my business sooner. Of course, they were thinking about that type of stuff, but nothing like I wish I made more money. They're like, I don't care.
Or even worked more hours. Instead of 8-hour days, I wish I had 12-hour days.
Man,
Not one person says that.
Yeah, here I am working like a 5-hour day, and I'm mostly podcasting. You know, like, you can't beat it. So, anyways, Chris, where can everyone find you?
Find me on my LinkedIn is really a great to centrally find me. It's Chris, CHRIS Johnsen, JOHNSEN, and I'm based in Houston, Texas. I own 3 main hourly facing businesses. That's Johnson Law, a B2B business firm, Fidelity National Title, Lake Houston and Conroe, which is a title company in the North Houston area, and then an estate planning and probate firm called Texas Estate and Probate Lawyers. They each have dedicated websites, all that stuff. But the best way is you can just go to my LinkedIn, shoot me a message.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
This has been the Pulse Ox Podcast. Please, if you found this episode valuable, give us a like on Spotify and share it with a friend.